It's been like a week since I've beaten Final Fantasy IX. It was incredible. Really just something so unique but confusing in terms of how I completely feel about it with all the Final Fantasy games under my belt. So instead of just thinking of it in a ranking system, I'll just think about it alone, as its own piece of media, as its own piece of art, a standalone thing from one of the tightest franchises in all of gaming. Coming from the love fantasy that was Final Fantasy VIII, with Kitase not being in the director's chair for the sequel, Ito is back from Final Fantasy VI, while Sakaguchi is handling the script. I'd argue this game has the most complex and mature themes within the entirety of Final Fantasy. Some of the greatest tonal shifts and juggling I've seen, telling a story about forming your own path in life, how we choose to live, how we choose to love, how we choose to die, carving our own purposes within our lifetime, no matter how long or short it is. While having a more story-oriented game, they still hone in a lot with the characters. It gets personal. Ito and Sakaguchi put their heart out for this one, for everyone to see. I don't think I played a game that's this empathetic, this personal. You can feel the passion from every line of dialogue, from the goofy, horny Zidane shenanigans to the locking in pure black screen text. Nobody juggles tonal shifts like that. Nobody does. Most folks struggle with having funny jokes in their games, but the work Sakaguchi and co did for this game is undeniable. Like, look at the small lines of dialogue like this. Someone who doesn't care wouldn't craft an optional scene like that for the funnies. But I'm getting ahead of myself, as I usually do, so let's just get back to the main point of the video, that being Final Fantasy IX. I was told over and over again by Spinball, who's editing this video by the way, that the story of Final Fantasy IX was about existentialism, which it is, but that's just the foundation. The themes of friendship and loneliness, life and death, it's a deep dive of the flawed thinking of it and the celebration of life, going on forming your own meaning of your existence. Sakaguchi's writing style has surely progressed. I think he definitely topped himself. He progressed it all the while sticking true to the ideas and heart he implements in all his games. His writing in this game is just simply superior. I love the damn near Shakespearean lines. I love how goofy and charming it can be, all the while getting melancholy and somber. I love the parallels between Zidane and Vivi, about how the person who teaches you and helps you get back on your feet can also be the one to fall to your need for answers about who you are and what your heritage is, and shows us Vivi's growth when Zidane himself is in need. I adore how everything is in service of the characters and their growth. I love how serious and goofy it can be while not discarding the whimsical and fairy tale atmosphere of this game, and how confident it is with its themes. The story of Final Fantasy IX is very simple and easy to follow compared to something like Final Fantasy VIII. The game starts off with Zidane's crew, Tantalus, making their way to Alexandria to put on a play, I Want to Be Your Canary, but in reality they're actually there to kidnap the princess. Little do we know, Regent Sid of Lindblum, the princess's uncle, was the one who hired the crew, because he's simply suspicious of her mother and that she might be in danger. On the flip side, we're also introduced to this little ass dude named Vivi, who's trying to sneak to the play himself. Princess Artie's like, yo, my mom being weird as hell, and she tries to jet herself. Zidane catches her on her way out and gets this goofy ass scene that just shows their dynamic that's gonna be throughout most of the game, and it's just so cool, you know? And then there's also this big ass oaf, this big ass thing. Like he built like a refrigerator called Steiner, who's the captain of the Pluto Knights of Alexandria, and he's also looking for the princess himself. With all this hubbub, they eventually stumble onto the stage of the play, while Vivi accidentally lights the princess's cloak on fire, and this starts a whole ass disaster, like when the Panzer pull up on Ball and Bush when we bump in Origins. The queen is already so geeked that she just starts spamming bombs. Pantula's ship ends up crashing on this goofy ass just literally called Evil Forest. All the while, Zidane is out here looking for the princess. Can I call her dagger already, dude? God damn it. Ugh, but yeeshers, that is basically it. You got all that? Good. Point is, the plot is very simple, or at least the start of it is, and it's easy to follow, which allows for nuance and depth within the characters. You don't need to constantly re-explain things to the player or have them scratch their heads like, oh, when did this happen? Type of deal. Writing the plot in such a way gives you that special freedom to explore the complexity of the characters. Final Fantasy IX asks a lot of questions. What does it mean to be alive? How do we deal with the looming concept of our deaths? Is destiny something we inherit or something we make? This game really hits those spots. They really go there with these questions, and you never know how much it's going to keep on giving. Makes you feel broken down and hungry with some of the things the characters go through, especially Vivi and Dagger, I feel. The first time we see one of these questions posed is when Vivi sees other black mages being made within Dali. He just stutters and is taken aback. This is the first time he questions where he even comes from and why they're even doing this. All the while, Dagger is resentful to hearing her mother is terrorizing Domitia. Dagger starts feeling helpless and like a failure as a princess protecting her people, a burden on the crew. Every positive and cheerful moment that comes gets washed away by some sort of tragic realization or horrific event. The more Vivi and Dagger think, the more they fall down into this abyss within their own minds. I think if you place yourself in Dagger's shoes, you'd feel as though she's losing every connection she's ever had, like when she loses her mother later on in the game. Vivi is well known as one of the best supporting characters, not only in just Final Fantasy IX, but in Final Fantasy as a whole. He is the heart and soul of the crew, the driving force of the strong themes and messaging this game offers. His dialogue with other characters and his own thoughts are some of the most special moments in any game. He's such an innocent sweetheart. You can't bear what he's going through. For that young of an age, it's heartbreaking to see him questioning it so hard, the reality of our doom. Is he spending it properly? Is he in control of his life? He's going through it all, and it's not helping that the war's going on because of Dagger's mother putting a damper on everyone. And he really tries to help her with it. All the while he's dealing with his own thing. He finds out about having a very limited lifespan when you mosey on to the Black Mage village. The very same time where he also finds out that he was simply a defect of the Black Mages used to conquer and take over continents, with the main villain Kuja being the son of the bitch in control. Not only that, but mocking them as they are doomed to die. Seeing him break down and just be so scared of what's going on, the suspense reading each line that was shot at us by number 288 was just gut-wrenching to say the least. As we're playing as Zidane chasing after him, it's just crazy. Take a look at how well they set it up. The big brother little brother dynamic he shares with Zidane is amazing. I love how he takes the advice from him and wears it on his sleeve, sharing some comedic relief after such serious scenes as well. Just shows how snazzy their chemistry is and love for each other as brothers. That's just one of many examples of each of these characters hitting some type of inner conflict involving existentialism, and seeing Yang just help them and uplift them through it. Or like Steiner, for example, helping them weave their way through life. What makes Final Fantasy IX so beautifully written, and what gives its core themes its longevity, is that death holds sway over our lives. Our real lives, like for realski, bro. Our bodies are gonna succumb to death. Our souls will simply move on. Final Fantasy IX is also about celebrating life and living it to the fullest, being the second piece of bread on this crispy grilled cheese of a game.
Give me that. There's like $8 of Jarlsberg in there.
Absolutely identical belt.
It's about choosing what we want to do with our lives and take control rather than lay over and keep fearing death till it inevitably takes us. What we strive to become, what we strive to do, what legacy will we leave, and obviously having people along the way ease the burden of the flowing river of life, which is also why the main villain Kuja is just a good parallel to Zidane. Everything was about him, power for him, ruling over the world for him, having control of the black mages for him. Kuja refused what he was while Zidane accepted that part of himself. At the ending moments of Kuja, he gets that through his head, and it's honestly such a somber moment shared between the brothers. We already talked a lot about Vivi and his deal, but he also learns to accept that short life that he has, and the limited time black mages have in general. He enjoyed that time that he had left with the crew, and even had kids to leave that legacy we were talking about. But specifically, Zidane and Vivi, they're both creations. They were made, and let's talk about Zidane. He always just stayed with his ideals, his morals. He's courageous. He's self-sacrificing, setting an example for Vivi. He showed that to him, gave him a chance to hold on, even if it was just for a second longer, to give time to think, to move on and keep on keeping on. This is apparent in the final letter that we see at the end of the game. Vivi needed Zidane, just like Zidane needed Vivi later. Another angle that this game takes which was one that I did not really expect, is that your life is already decided the moment you were born. The societal role your parents are in puts you in that position. Who they are and what they've done, your heritage is what makes you. But FF9 just fucking football tackles the subject, and as an Arab dude, this is one that I really loved and enjoyed them take a jab at. This is something so real, especially where I'm at. There's so many things to take from this tight little thing of a game, bro. Making the best of what we have, being with our friends and family, loving and caring for each other. We as a society cannot work as singular individuals. It's up to us to have that circle that makes us, that shapes us, molds us for the world, and its never-ending, grandiose grace. Treasure your life, enjoy the time with your brother, share your friend's joy, the good times, the hard times, the good, the bad, the ugly. When things get rough, even for a long time, that small community with the people you surround yourself with will always pull you back up from the darkest of voids and make you shine on. No crazy diamond. That's what life is all about. It's hard to go through, but we're all just making it through. Help folks, help your folks, and they'll help you back. That's how we function as human beings. We don't make sense, we really don't, but loving is the best things us humans do. A shift in the story, at least for the latter half, is when Garland has this insane speech about how life must have death, and life is death itself. It was so gripping, thrilling, the real antithesis to Zidane and co. It was so philosophical and thought-provoking. That's what he's trying to do. Kill Gaia so Terra can live on. But if you think about it, isn't that the case with living? Is to give life meaning? But to live, you must take other lives. That's just the circle of life. Humor me for a moment. We kill animals for food so we can live. Bacteria does the same. Animal does the same to other animals. Like a bomb-ass T-Rex slams a Spinosaurus. Real easy for some grub. That's its own life. So we all acknowledge there's meaning to life. Terra seems to have gone against this and want to prolong its already destined lifespan. Death is a cycle. It happens. It's going to consume all of us, and yet they try to defy it rather than accepting it. Sakaguchi was fucking cooking in the studio with this one, completely shattering all my expectations within the regard of writing. Much more than a simple deep dive within existentialism. But one thing that did bug me, or that just had me scratching my head, is that there is like no takeoff within the game. For example, nothing like has that rush like, oh shit, it's getting down now. Like when Sabin sees Kefka poisoning the river in FF6, or seeing the serpent get impaled with the chilling and iconic, did Sephiroth do this? Ooh, chills, bro. But yeah, it feels much more streamlined and flows together more so. Just an odd feeling, if that makes any sense. Strive to be kind, folks. Accept people for who they are and help them to better themselves, and make them love the life that they live, that they were born into. What a beautiful story filled with the rich themes that they're so confident with. The philosophical angles they take, the questions they ask. This may be the most emotional Final Fantasy has ever been. I've yet to play many others, but gee whiz, it's so freakishly strong. No wonder this is one of the Mount Rushmore of video game franchises. When I was just done with the game, I remember telling Ball that this game was the strongest 9 a humble man can give. But going through this and typing out what I think and how good the story of the game is, after him literally telling me to just sit on it for a couple of days and think about it, I would be lying a shallow lie if it wasn't a 10. Final Fantasy IX is royalty fiction because of lines like these. It's so peak because it engages, intrigues, and thrills the player, and challenges the characters of Zidane, Vivi, Dagger, Steiner, and so many fucking more. Final Fantasy IX feels like the personal, sincere story form from Sakaguchi's touch and only his touch. It's not one of my favorites for being one of the most human and emotional stories put on paper. If you take away the game aspect and just handed me the script, the bare script with the coffee stains and messy writing, you still have a lovely, sincere story about what it means to live, how we shape and find meaning within our own lives and the people who define us, teaching you that life sucks and can be dull, but the people who surround us, our loves, our friends and family, our community, will push us to keep on keeping on. And we do the same for them. And something from specifically Zidane, keep doing the right thing for everyone. Not even if it's asked for. You don't need a reason to help someone. Besides the whole gem system, the gameplay isn't really innovative and is generally super duper slow, but it's a pretty good return to form. After Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VIII and bumping Expedition 33, the 3 character Final Fantasy VII isms kinda pissed me off, I'm not gonna lie. So going back to the classic 4 characters was a real sweet treat. That's the best way I can describe the turn-based funk of this game, just very classic. Animations are also pretty good, but as I said, it's really slow. Like the summons, they can really test your patience. Also, I ain't even got something to say about this, but about trance, it's pretty cool. But you never really get it. Like, I got that shit maybe like 3 times tops naturally, and it takes a century to get going, besides maybe Zidane's Mio Twister. I'm sure there's many mods that help fix this, but I was personally bumping this on my Nintendo Switch. Ever since I bought it way back when in the days of old of 2020, something's been calling me to play it on that system. But besides that, I guess trance has story relevance with Kuja at the end of the game, but besides that, probably just like a hard miss. I really do dig that in this game they really show stuff like trance and summons being used in the actual story and have strong plot relevance, because that's something that's weird and always being used as like a gameplay sort of thing, but here they have actual stakes within the story. Just like the systems of old and the gem system, which you can select an ability or something and you can fully learn it by fighting enough times and it becomes a passive ability, which is totally rad, and I loved it in Expedition 33 as well, which is a clear direct influence from this game. It's awesome yet a humble way to have that feeling of progression of getting stronger within an RPG. While there is some crossover, not every character can learn every ability, which further adds to the flavor/fantasy of their assigned roles. Like, you got Amaranth, the monk with big naturals, but he's weird in this game compared to other monks since he also has a weapon. Zidane, probably the only thief I like in any Final Fantasy game, but tragically the thief skill does not work like 98% of the time. But if you do use it and by some bizarro luck you get something from a boss, or like, I don't know, just like a random enemy, it's usually something very good. Also, Steiner, the knight with insane damage and can float infinitely. All in all, the gameplay in Final Fantasy IX is satisfying, if not somewhat simple. The combat system is plagued with a bad limit break wannabe and a pace that I can only explain as if your shawarma currently being smothered by pomegranate molasses. Yet they still have that rocking gem system that tries to add its own groove to the turn-based system, rather than going ahead with the usual grind to get stronger shindig. Now, the master himself, Nobu Uematsu, has gone on record saying that this is his favorite and best work that he has ever done. Now, I don't want to seem like a tourist or like a commoner or something, but Final Fantasy VII has the best soundtrack in the entire franchise. I don't care. From the somber tracks to the track setting up the atmosphere to just straight up bangers like Farm Boy. It's so flames and so iconic for a fucking reason, okay? And I'm not gonna debate the guy, he's the GOAT. He's one of the best composers of all time. He has Koji Kondo levels of greatness. Anytime he gets into that studio, it's gonna be pure flames and nothing but that. but still, I humbly disagree. You know, simply, I humbly disagree. But I think it's good. I think it's fucking great. I think it's very well crafted soundtrack, the Final Fantasy IX soundtrack, especially for the setting and tones that they were going for with this game. But like I said, I don't think it stacks up to some of the other OSTs within this lovely franchise. Though there are definitely some all-timers tracks on this, but let's get into why they're so good in the first place. Returning back to the fantasy and whimsical atmosphere, it's definitely going to influence the soundtrack in a certain direction, and we can hear it quite clearly within this game. Each track feels like that soul of that storybook and fairy tale whimsy that engulfs you in its own soulful world. The whimsical nature, the melancholic undertones, it's jam-packed with, you know, when you hear the title of Final Fantasy, this is a soundtrack that exemplifies that to me. It's full of heart and finely textured by Uematsu's signature style. The music that goes along with each scenario tells its own story along with whatever's going on and evokes an emotional, progressive feeling, unlike something in FF8, for example. Each particular instrument used, as each phrase played, has its own narrative guiding our emotions to fit along with the characters, and some songs like Not Alone reflect the character's growth and give you that feeling of triumph with the leitmotif snuck in there, which needs to happen a lot within this game. Speaking on leitmotifs, there's a hell of a lot of them, and it shows. They're so juicy, and that's part of the reason why they stick so hard with you. Vivi's theme, for example, goofy, warm, childlike, whimsy, waltzy groove, showing his innocence and pure-hearted nature. Zidane's theme, slam jammer, humble banger. On some of that Mario Galaxy action, it shows his outgoing, extroverted nature, with the little interlude in the middle of it going like super suave and smooth and slow before zoom, going right back up to that Klonoa adventurous type beat. It's just a real cool interlude showing his deeply empathetic nature. It's so peak. Having leitmotifs show up this much and include them in so many tracks is genuinely such a genius idea because of how heavy this game is about story, characters, and the themes that it reinforces the growth of them throughout the game. Like a little hit in the back of your head rather than shoving it down your throats like, look guys, this is where they change or whatever. The dealing with life and death, heritage, how we lead our lives is not an easy thing to talk about. And I already explained how well Sakaguchi handled it with his pen work, but Uematsu brings it to life perfectly with his compositions. His pieces are one for the ages with this game. Stuff like the vocal track at the credits, Melodies of Life is the cherry on top, like a jam-packed one last go, showing the towns, the continents, the soft tender moments between characters. It's some beautiful stuff and actually just had me speechless. No Invincible, no Not That Bumblebum, peak ass album by the late great MJ, no intro needed. Sadness wrapped in beauty with the light flickering of hopefulness at the end of the game is the enchanting way Master Uematsu handles the thematic qualities of the game with his superior pieces. The thematic qualities, the support to the story and the character progression, yet it also does way more than it. That's the type of soundtrack that you have to remember in these times. Is like you're just having a groovy afternoon, walking through Lindblom or making your way to the bar in Alexandria when Zion was in his feelings. That one was hilarious. The point is, it's music that remembers, and in a JRPG, doing that means you've done it all. Uematsu composed not just music, but the feelings of this world. It's story to tell, and he birthed this game's soul with his music. But not getting this serious, are we not going to talk about the straight slam jam classics out here? Estorgaz is such a fireplace. Also, the vibes and all is just so enchanting. But yeah, point is, this is a fire ass soundtrack. I know I said it's not my favorite, but that does not mean it's not peak on its own right. I fucking love the design of Final Fantasy IX. I say this game has the prettiest and best looking pre-rendered backgrounds in any game ever. A lot of love and thought was put into it, and it's one of the game's glaring and striking pull-ins in my opinion. From the chibi-esque look to the steampunk medieval infused style, it's much more gripping after Final Fantasy VII and 8. It's so distinctive, a beautiful emotionally resonant visual style of the days of old. Alexandria, Estorgaza, Memoria. It's a lush canvas that you can feel as though you're being sucked into it and just told to soak in everything. I got like a bajillion screenshots from my playthrough, just taking in the scenery of this gorgeous ass game, bro. And it was kind of getting out of hand at some point. Each area and background feels like a stone cold tone setter, not just some random ass background for X place like, oh, we need a castle area or some lush grass field. No, it's there to make a fucking statement. A handcrafted world, a world that feels so lived in just from these backgrounds. The lighting and color choices within these said backgrounds. It feels so emotionally charged that you're always taken aback and like, whoa, dude, this shit is nasty. And you just gotta, you just gotta take it in, you know. And the character design, oh boy, yeah. Look at Zidane. He has this weird belt thing going on in his shirt. The color choices of the light blue and white perfectly complements his big blonde hair along with his Saiyan ass tail that he only uses like once, like an actual monkey. But also something I dig are those like big cuffs. They're so goofily enlarged but fits all right with him. Take him away and he just wouldn't look the same. VV as well is harkening back to that classic black mage look, but having little things just to spice it up and make it feel more cozy, more homey, more different. For example, the oval-shaped eyes instead of the normal dotted eyes give that feeling of sensitivity, I feel matching his personality. The hat also being so long and limping, in the back, the soft colors and line pants. It's simple changes but have a lovely distinction. They really had so much heart and soul put into these lovely cast of characters that are also digging deep within their own very souls to find their own meaning to their lives, and it's just, it's so fucking good, dude. Zidane might very well be my favorite protagonist besides Zack Fair, and his lovely arc about self-acceptance and literally breaking through what he was meant to be, the literal angel of death, is one that is genuinely so beautiful. The constant thematic concepts of self-acceptance, not needing a reason to help anyone, and togetherness with friends and family, all erupt that these connections are what pushes out of the way and into the direction of the light. Zidane is the stability of the crew. For most of the game, he is the one that is helping out everyone, getting back on their feet, consoling and advising them, being affected by their pain and struggles, not his, showing us his affection for the vulnerable and unafraid for beating up or talking shit the way he teaches Dagger to do when they meet. But all of this is also layered on top of a light insecurity about his past, where he comes from, eventually let out by Garland, who tells him he is a mere creation. And one of the most gut-punching and emotionally dense scenes within the game, which is insane for this tiny little thing of a game, it's also reinforces the game's main themes. The scene all plows down, showing the shock, the traumatic crash going into Zidane as he's being laid all this down at one go. Imagine this, just imagine just figuring out that this planet is trying to destroy your own planet by this insane old person who then tells you that the answer you've been longing for, your heritage, where you come from, and that you find out you were a creation, and a creation of something that's polar opposite of you. It's powerful, it's heartbreaking, it's ballsy. This is balls within the genre. And to make a great character with great character drama, you gotta have balls. What this did to Zidane was kinda break him for a bit. The stabilizing being that lit up everyone's faces from dusk till dawn, rain or shine, is shattered and scattered. I felt absolutely awful for him right here. The most anguished my dog has ever been. Especially since Zidane is probably the only character within the game who knows exactly who he is and what he stands for, while, dropping hints every now and again that he does have his own insecurities and problems. But to me, that's what makes him human. We are not perfect, and he proves that the reason you are born, the reason you are here within this world, it isn't meant to fulfill the role of what your parents want from you, or whatever someone tells you to do. You gotta grab life by the nutsack and form and carve your own path doing what you want to do. Zidane is a clear representation of that, breaking the chains of literally being the angel of death by the help of his friends, clearing up his fogged up mind, and sticking to his ideals that he already fleshed out himself through years of self-discovery with Tantalus, I bet. The scene I mentioned has to be one of the most moving scenes within the game, where every party member swings in to remind Zidane of his importance to them, but also why he needs them too. After that, the group that Zidane leads, the shit he plunged them into is crazy. They literally stare at the actual Angel of Death Kuja, who has his own Super Saiyan 4 form, now ready to destroy everything, destroying the crystal that is going to destroy the universe basically. They look death straight in the eyes and still lift each other back up till they save the world. The thematic presence of togetherness, self-acceptance, and breaking the ideals and fates placed upon you by heritage is so delicate. Each character in Final Fantasy IX has their own problems that tackles the themes in a very specific way, but with Zidane, it shows that it is ultimately better to fight tooth and nail with the people collectively pushing everyone forward and doing what's right. Not to mention the goofy big bro of the crew helping out anyone he can because he's just like that. He grows into the person that he's already known and loved for being, but simply more emotionally mature and understanding. He goes from telling Dagger to disregard Vivi because she's worried about him in the Black Mage Village, to having the courage to sit down and talk to him completely about what he's pondering about later on. You don't need a reason to help someone. The troubling thoughts of a human being is the ideas popping into our heads. Why do we exist? Why are we even here? What do I do within the limited time that I am here for? Something that's haunted humans since like forever. It's often kind of overwhelming to think about the purpose of everything in death. Vivi is a masterclass in this topic, and handles and fucking football tackles those topics the best I've ever seen. Vivi is such a cute dork, a sweetheart within every sense of the word. The perfect clumsy little brother anyone could ever ask for. He's a little dramatic who says very melodramatic things and says beautiful things when he can, but most importantly, Vivi grows to be a great kid. He's always bombarded with death, tragedy, negative thoughts that are clogging his mind that should destroy a kid like him, but his conflict of constantly having an inner war of learning and accepting his limited lifespan on this planet, it's of accepting it. Being a better person around his friends, especially helping his big brother at the end of the game when he learns that he is nothing but a tool of destruction, just like he thought of himself. Despite the tragedies that he is facing and will always face throughout the game, and the Black Mage Village section absolutely crushing him, he completely grows into accepting it. That regardless the answers to these existential problems, that he was going to be there for his friends. He fights for what he believes in, and just like Zidane taught him, helping anyone he can. A scene that shows this brilliantly is when the queen dies. He has his own inner monologue that the woman that has caused him so much sorrow, that has indirectly engulfed his mind with these suffocating thoughts, is dead, and he should be happy, but he isn't. He saw Dagger starting to cry and he was conflicted. He was sad too. Vivi's arc shows me a lot and makes me proud. The encouragement of doing what you believe in, the encouragement to hold on just a little bit longer. I find it so perfect and hits all the spots for me, especially learning about his journey, his personality, and the things he's been through. Coming from a character that was a defected puppet meant to reign terror across the world, he should be apathetic and self-isolated, but he didn't do that. He embraced his life and molded his fate with his friends, and on top of not only embracing his life, embracing his short lifespan, coming to terms with it and living the best life he can. Vivi is the most human character of Final Fantasy. Like it or not, happy-go-lucky, carefree, edgy, nonchalant, showing it to people or not, the feelings Vivi feels, the thoughts that plague his mind, are all things we have thought about in our lifetimes. Fearing the end, Vivi's resolve reminds us that it isn't healthy to do that. Fear the unknown and the inevitable, fighting day by day and sticking together, and through the hardships with the connections we've made, the day by day is what it's all about, like I said earlier in the video. It's simple, it's sincere. Vivi is human. Vivi has a story about a tragic kid who will always keep moving forward, keep growing and maturing his mindset. When he's bogged down with these existential thoughts, on top of the weight of the world on his shoulders, like how his people were used and Kuja literally ready to destroy existence, he somehow always manages to do the right thing for his friends. The goofy protector has a tight little thing of an arc. The ruling on-duty Steiner who's bound to protecting the princess. The constant infighting happening within Gaia, or more so Alexandria, just going crazy and catching bodies through other kingdoms, and Steiner's completely oblivious to that. Steiner is super passionate. He swears on the queen and believes within his duty more than anything else, which is protecting the queen and the princess. These are ingrained worldviews within our good old captain's head. That's not to justify the queen or him defending the queen in any way, it's just something to keep in the back of your head before we move along. Steiner's first time finding out that the princess has been kidnapped is hilariously goofy, and it just had me dying, bruh. Why does his jaw unhinge like that? The animations and body language used for him literally describe him perfectly. To me, it shows a committed, narrow-minded, but noble and caring person. A person with a heart of gold, unfortunately clouded by classist ideals. You gotta understand as well, Steiner never really liked Zidane for most of the game, I think. He was always beefing at the start with him, but that's because of him thinking that he kidnapped the princess, or technically, I mean, he did kidnap the princess. But you can see his heart of gold and nobleness by the way he treats Vivi, right after the whole shebang happens. Scenes between Steiner, Vivi, and Zidane show the contrast of his worldviews and ideals as a person before the adventure gets going. Another scene that's hilarious is when he goofily yells at the first monster you fight in the evil forest to let go of the princess, perfectly showing his mindset as well. Steiner is an amazing friend and protector, except for Zidane, that comes later. There are many moments of pure stubbornness and refusal of literally listening to the princess. That just makes for some of the funniest bits that I just so wish to hear voice acted. But I think that just shows how hard it is to combat the social customs ingrained in your head, to fight the cultural identities, and to question everything you once believed in. You can see these cracks through Steiner's sense of purpose, his sense of self, and his direction in his life. This is most apparent in a scene where Baku slaps him in the face with this. He is always thinking about serving a purpose as if he doesn't have anything else in his life besides the duty of protecting the princess. Even after all that, it takes him literally seeing the queen hurt the princess so much for him to take action. For a humble knight to be well and just, the ruler might as well be. And so he makes the decision and takes his order to protect the princess more than anything, even if he's still against Tantalus while they help to save the princess. But later on he opens up as time goes on and splits the errored mindset, literally joking with Zidane when he's at his worst, showing that how he's grown to become more tolerant of other ideals and cultures and isn't so narrow-minded. This is so lovely to me, especially for a place I'm living in a place that is so narrow-minded and literally refusing to just open your mind to different ideas, different people, different cultures, and all that. It's just so lovely. I think Dagger probably goes through the most and changes the most from the start of the game. The screen that says for each character's thing, like, Zidane being virtue, for example, Dagger says devotion. In quotes, "Someday I'll be the queen, but I'll always be myself." This isn't how she always thinks. She's not the lineage of her adopted mother. She has a lovely arc of identity and self-acceptance. She transforms herself multiple times throughout the game about her true self, and it's through her that we see the strong theme of identity explored. We have the surprise at the start of the game of her wanting to be kidnapped. She's quite naive and driven, but once she gets to know Zidane, she's quite princess-like, but she wants to be more like the common person. Dagger, she evolves herself to be more open-minded and open to cultures once she was super closed off, saying things like, "Where is the room on the world map?" to being able to fight for other people and trying to help folks from a whole other planet that she doesn't know or even have any rule over. And through a beautifully symbolic FMV, she uses the very thing she renamed herself by to cut off her hair, showing us that she has fully found herself and is finally freed from the shackles of what was cemented in her as how to act, how to speak, and how to live. Dagger, she's super multifaceted, and I think it's a nice seed planted as she plays the princess in the "I want to be your canary" during the start of the game, which just humbly shows what her arc is going to be about. Maybe it was a way to show us that she is already struggling with her identity and true self on some Persona 4 voodoo. Bodying devotion to self-discovery, it's quite fitting because either way, throughout all of it, she always has a sense of goodness and develops herself into the queen she's always meant to be. It's exemplified quite well, especially after the queen died. She's mourning. Somehow, she still finds it within the goodness of her heart to forgive her. Ugh. I don't think I have the brain powers to talk much about some of the other characters, but I really do love the rest of the cast. I find Amaranth funny just because he really just does not give a fuck about anything. Quina, the absorber of food, who was so underleveled for me when paired up with Zidane, that in one bit I tried to use eat against one of the bosses and got bitch slapped with one hit, and they were just like, they were down. Kuja, I definitely like Kuja quite a bit. The ending with him is really strong. Just like a really strong point of him. The pompous attitude is one I find very funny, especially with how well it fits within this Final Fantasy world. But the way he suffers the very same fate as the black mages he ridiculed for having a short lifespan. He has the crash out of the century, and I just find that pitiful. When it's all said and done, the ending scene with him and Zidane just hits hard as the life from his body slowly fades away, while he apologizes for his wrongdoings as the only thing he can do. But man, this game is really special. It asks so much, has you thinking, emotionally dense and mature, so much growth, lovable cast, and forever going to be within my heart as one of the greats in terms of storytelling and characters. Day by day, bumping new peaks like this, and folks still consider games like The Last of Us as like the first good story within a game or whatever. suck my robot nuts, to be honest. The way it talks about staying true to yourself, something Persona 4, another classic that we've talked about, it's all about that. A lot of us struggle of trying to stay true to our own core values when you're stuck in a situation that won't or cannot permit it. Dagger, for example, showed that a lot. She comes out a lot more experienced and strong-willed, fighting for what she believes in. Connection and helping your friends just like how they'd help you. How your past doesn't define you, and accept where you come from. I know I've rehashed that a lot, but I really gotta let y'all know about it and not mince words. Reminder, nobody's useless, and nobody will ever be useless regardless. It's a game for the people, a game for us all, and the many struggles we go through life, regardless if you're 10 or you're 15 or 50, dude, it's something that will hit you if you're experienced with life or not. A fantastical emotional journey that's gonna put you through the ringer, but hopefully you get what I'm saying and what I've been talking about, and love it as much as I do. I love Final Fantasy IX. Golly, this is definitely one of the longer videos I've written in a while. It's been like, what, a year anyways since I've done anything? So how y'all like that, huh? A return to form, rambly mess? I don't know, you tell me. I wouldn't be surprised though, considering how rambly I can get. But hey, just like the title, I'm human, alright? But everything comes straight from the heart, and that's what fucking counts. Anyway, I'm not gonna hold you up any longer. Probably a long ass video anyways. Thanks for Spinball editing this video once again. He loves this game way more than I do. Yes, he is the #1 meat writer for Final Fantasy IX. Either him or Brit Iddy, I don't know. But yippity yappity. Peace and blessings.